right. Hartford police say they're increasing resources to their auto theft division. They're super frustrated. They say they are out in full force, and they say all of the violence last night happened shortly after arresting a minor in possession of a ghost gun, they say, who was also wanted for questioning in an unrelated homicide, and they say with the recovery of a high-capacity magazine.
Our focus right now, to be clear, is on gun violence.
Hartford police investigating 3 unrelated shootings Monday night. The second, just after 8:30 p.m. along Albany Avenue, took the life of 43-year-old LeVar Jackson of West Hartford. He died, police say, at the hospital from multiple gunshot wounds. Part of the violence, according to detectives, was captured on camera.
Based on what we saw, certainly in the video, this was a dispute between 2 folks. That escalated. It did involve some additional individuals as it continued on, but it was certainly, from what we've seen, it was certainly unnecessary.
Can you tell who that person is on the video?
We have a good idea of the people that are involved in that incident. That's as much as I can say.
Minutes earlier in Albany and Adams, police say a man in his 30s claimed he too had been shot.
Detectives and the officers went back there, checking video, checking evidence, could not confirm that was the scene of the shooting. There was no physical evidence to indicate a shooting occurred there. This is the one we're looking into as the possibility of self-inflicted. There's physical evidence that would lead us in that direction.
And just before 10 p.m., the city's shot spotter activated in the 400 block of Washington Street. 2 men were hit, one of which was grazed.
We are finding a tremendous number of these shootings are starting from very minor personal disputes.
This obviously cannot be the sole responsibility of the police. We continue to work in close partnership with the community organizations that are out there doing violence interruption.
And now tonight, if you have any information on any of these shootings, including that fatal one of LeVar Jackson, do not hesitate to call the Hartford police. Coming up tonight at 5, more on what city officials are doing, they say, to combat the violence. We are live in Hartford at police headquarters. Jill Konopka, Fox 61 News. Back to you.